Dearly redheaded, we are choosing consciousness today to get through this thing called grief. Interesting word, grief. It means love, which makes for a mighty good joke. But I'm here to tell you, there's nothing else. Just joy. And if the big picture tends to bring you down, go crazy once your life goes. Woo!
Good morning.
Hello.
How are you?
Good.
You know what I saw this week?
What?
A cinnamon bear. You ever see a cinnamon bear? Did I ask you this already?
I have no idea. What's it like? Is that like the cinnamon brooms that you get at like the Christmas tree shop for like Christmas time?
I don't even know what that is. No.
You know those brooms? You hang them on the back of your door. They smell like cinnamon. Make your whole house smell like fall.
Okay. No, I mean
a bear-shaped one.
All right, you're starting to sound like me. No, a real live cinnamon bear. They look like a black bear, but they're cinnamon in color.
Oh, so like a brown bear,
but a cinnamon bear.
Uh-huh.
They look. I mean, they're not a brown bear.
Okay,
but they look more brown than black. Beautiful animal.
I'm gonna have to Google it.
They're pretty rare. One crossed the road in front of me. I was astonished. Just absolutely beautiful. Car had stopped in front of me. I pulled up alongside of him. I said, "What the hell was that?" He said, "A cinnamon bear. They're very rare." And they're I don't know. They're in the black bear family, so
Okay.
they're like a fluky duke, recessive bear. Anyway, it was beautiful. I love it when things like that happen. Just reminds me to pay attention. And the bear was acting like she didn't want to be seen. It was very interesting. Anyway, last week when I spoke to Beth about her abuse, she and I had a conversation where I just hope it came across how I'm getting a chest pain right now. I'm just hoping it translated how much I feel for her experience. And I very often, when I talk to people, this whole podcast has been an opportunity for me to field the things that I think about and get some feedback and then either confirm or deny what I've been thinking to then talk more and write more about these things. And I just hope that where Beth is concerned, I put a 10 on covert abuse for those who haven't experienced any physical or sexual abuse. A 10 is the number that I choose for me. I'm not saying somebody else has to choose a 10, but then from there, abuse is just compiled. Like I said, it can be a 20, 30, 406. And I don't think it's in an effort to compare. I think it's in an effort to say, this is the effect it's had on me personally. And I'm very, very, very sad when people who have experienced extreme physical and sexual abuse never get to the covert elements, but that's their choice. It's got nothing to do with me. Yeah. So I carried a little bit of Beth's story with me into this week, and I just am so grateful for what we talked about. It also made me, like, in my effort to forgive myself for my participation. I didn't have a choice. It started when I was a child, so I didn't have a choice, but I am Brian often encourages me to tell more of my story, and I basically, I don't know why this is so hard to say. I guess because it's shameful and embarrassing. I tolerated my ex-husband for 29 years. I got a 10-year reprieve between 2010 and 2020. But in 2020, I was ready to face the music and get some clarity on what I had tolerated, and asked him for some clarity. And he gave it to me in a way that was very dismissive, but I actually thanked him because it was the beginning of me knowing what happened had really happened, that it wasn't something my own mind fabricated. So that's an embarrassing number, 29 years. And then I basically took me 46 years to stand up to my family. And I know that's another embarrassing number. And I know so many of you are dealing with this stuff, and we should be able to. I shouldn't have had to work through CPTSD for 10 years to get to the point where I could face and heal more strongly. It just shouldn't have to take that long, and that's the point in doing this despair, grief, and insight joy. My podcast this week, following this episode and maybe a second episode, depending on what the fuck I talk about, is going to be with my nephew, and I'm also very emotional about that, more so than any other people that I've spoken with. Woo! And I was very, 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 very joyous coming here this morning. So it's funny that I'm a friggin' sap now. I remember being a very intuitive child. I remember being aware a couple of times of being either left alone or being in danger. And I think that's tied to dissociating so young. They're not necessarily negative memories, they're just memories. One is when I fell into the pool, and I remember my mother walking towards me to lift me out of the pool, but it was like watching myself watch her. And then another time when I would fall asleep in the car, and this is so my mother. You know, I was in the driveway, so she'd leave me in the car. And I remember waking up and just, I think I was hysterical. But there's a part of me that also knew that it was just a matter of somebody coming out of the house to get me. So I had that level of insight, but still full of fear. And in my mind, it took forever for someone to come out and get me once I had woken up from my nap. So just little things that I think about that are my earliest memories of dissociation or cognizance, depending on how you look at it. It feeds into a larger issue that I think I know many people do it. Again, it's not always about being female, but once I got out of childhood and moved more towards adulthood, I had learned to subjugate, I think is the word, my own needs to the needs of others. And I was talking to somebody this week about asking for a BLT sandwich. And then saying, okay, leave off the bacon. And then saying, all right, well, I guess I really don't need the tomato. And, well, fuck the lettuce. So now we're down to the 2 pieces of bread. And I'll just take a piece of toasted bread. And that became how I related in relationships, largely romantic, largely family. I have had good luck with relationships outside of family and good luck in relationships. And it's just a learned behavior when you come through covert abuse. And after talking to Beth last week, I had a conversation with a person this week who I went from overt abuse to overt childhood things to covert marital things to eventually a third relationship with a roommate that was a combination of the two, and that was the wake-up call I needed to get through all this shit, and I am very pleased where I'm at. But very often people go through the exact opposite. They start with a more covert relationship and then find themselves in an overtly abusive relationship, and it's kind of a head trip that this has to happen more than once, but inevitably, we have the family experiences, we have the romantic experiences, and what we know plays out. And it used to be that it was more simple. I think it's gotten more complicated because you add multi-generational issues on top of it, and it's just a whole fucking lot to field and decipher. But I was able to talk to this woman yesterday who is still defending herself to her ex-husband, and what hurts her more was a relationship after her ex with a very physically abusive person. And I directed her back to her first relationship and sort of said that sort of primed the pump. And she was still, even though they're divorced, long divorced, she's still trying to relate to him in such a way that that BLT scenario. Everything is about, explaining yourself. I'm not explaining this well today. I'm really aware that I'm talking to my nephew next and it's getting to me.
You're doing a good job.
I hope so.
I'm staying with you at least.
Well,
I don't know about everybody else.
I felt so like in the moment about it. And now, well, knowing that it's imminent, it's getting to me because it means so much to me. I just don't want to. You can imagine. I have 12 nieces and nephews, and I only talk to 2 of them. So you can imagine what that does to the brain. Okay. So to add another layer of whatever this is to this, I spoke about my intuition as a child on purpose because that's the thing that I think largely turned people off to me, because I did have this ability to see through and to get things, and this enhanced level of empathy that ended up, benefiting others and shooting myself in the foot. My brain's just dissociating. I apologize. But one thing that my intuition comes to me, I've mentioned clairaudience before. I've mentioned how my synchronicities are unbelievable. My claircognizance is pretty unbelievable. I mean, I can associate things either through numbers or experiences over the years, little drips and drabs of things, years apart that ultimately are meant to fit together. It's really quite lovely and spiritual, but I'm used to it. So I don't always think to bring it here, but this one's pretty incredible. And it's also very, very, am I going to say deep? Sure, I'll say fucking deep. It's also fucking deep. So when I was young, and I don't remember, I know the movie came out in 1982, so I was 13. At some point, I saw the movie Sophie's Choice, and I remember that movie's impact tremendously. The movie leads you to believe that Sophie, who is played by Mother Meryl Streep, that Meryl's character is making a decision between the choice being between 2 lovers, and ultimately Sophie reveals to her younger lover that when in Auschwitz, she was asked by a German officer, and I didn't re-listen to the movie since I could only watch it once many, many years ago. I have not rewatched it. But she ultimately has to choose one of her children to die at Auschwitz. And it's horrible. So this movie, that much of it I remembered and has been in the back of my head for weeks. I don't really think about why, because then the rabbit holes happen. I more or less gets on my radar, and I've explained it before, comes on my radar a few times. Well, the other day I woke up, it was early towards morning, probably 4 o'clock, and I had gone to sleep watching something on Prime and woke up and a different channel was on and Sophie's Choice was on. And I'm like, all right, well, now I'll fucking pay attention. Did you ever see the movie?
Nope. But it sounds like a pretty common story from back in those days.
I would imagine. But the impact of the visuals on me and being young, I think it was one of the pivotal things where for me, I can't watch the news. I can't watch stuff like that in movies.
Well, is it like a true account, or is it just kind of like this definitely happened, so we made a movie about it, like kind of thing?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't remember. So the movie's
regardless. Yeah.
So the movie's on, and I very quickly deduced that it's the movie, even though I haven't seen it since 1980 something. So I'm paying attention, and the scene comes where she has to, I'm aware that she has just told her younger lover about the situation, and the scene comes with the children, and I get through that, and I'm being encouraged to stay tuned. What my mind blocked was, after revealing to her younger lover about her children, she ultimately goes back to the arms of her other lover, who Kevin Kline played him, and he was more of an abusive type of guy, intermittent love with abuse type of thing. From how again, I'm half watching it because it's very painful for me to watch. So ultimately, she and her second lover take their lives. They commit suicide. Totally had blocked that from my mind. And it made me, and this is where, my mind makes these, I think, in pictures, patterns, and numbers. So I was, now I've got a deep ringing in my ears because I want to be very, very careful about how I say this. So ultimately, she couldn't handle what had happened. And I think also she lost access to her second child as well. And that's an assumption because, again, I didn't watch it. So my point is, with all this stuff that I'm talking about, in an effort to spare myself grief and incite joy and not want to sedate joy and bring people further along on their paths who want to be there, my biggest fear is, what if I do this podcast? What if I write the books? What if I speak to everything from trauma, abuse, estrangement, generational trauma, all the things that I, embrace psychology, neurology about to address, I'm like, what if I still do all this stuff and I still don't have a relationship with my sons at the end as a result of decisions I've had to make? Like, will I be able to survive it? And I think that's why I was guided to watch her make the decision she made in the movie. And again, Brian, I don't know if it was based on a true story or not. It was just, regardless, very, very heavy and very fucking heavy for 1982. And it's amazing that I just wish we had more movies that put people in the position of having to learn from what others have been through. That's my best way of learning. So my point is, I know my soul chose this path this time around. That's been made obvious to me. I wouldn't want to do it again. And they say if you are not able to fulfill your soul's contract, you got to come back and do it again. And I'm like, oh Christ, no way, not this one. Never, 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 never. So the movie just made me realize how important what I'm doing is for myself, and I just hope it makes a fucking impact. And I never thought that I'd get more immersed in the trauma end of things versus the comedy end of things. So it's for somebody who's written all the jokes that I've written on the traumatic events and the abuse events. I really thought that's where I would, find my footing. But I'm just finding that if I don't talk about the shit behind the jokes, the jokes fall flat. Because like you've taught me, people really, really want to know. And then I'm like, really? Do you really want to know? Okay. And then it's just all the shame and vulnerability and the sabotage. I'm going to talk about the sabotage later with my nephew because it's real, man. It's real. So that seemed very disjointed. But I got it out and I talked about just, our choices are, this is the first time that I'm just so cognizant that my own voice can be used to slaughter me, because here I am doing something artistic and live, and historically my own voice has been used against me in narratives that, I don't show anything, a physical representation of my voice, and now I'm showing a physical representation of my voice, and it's fucking scary. It scares the hell out of me. It scares me more not to do it, but it blows my mind because I struggle so much with using my voice, and I don't mean because of the person that I am. I just mean being autistic and having the ADHD component and having my memory be whatever, not great, or having the dissociative components. But I feel like I'm healing. So there's the irony, is to, lay in front of the bus and come out the other side of it. So am I at my famous 18-minute mark?
22. You missed it by a couple.
Yeah. I feel about 10 years old talking to my nephew next.
Yeah?
Yeah. Yeah, it's getting to me. Woo!
Do you want to preface that? Like what you're going to go into?
Well, I talked to him of late. We've talked, we don't talk often, but we talk often enough. But this is the first time that I just don't want to cause any harm to him, his family, my family, the loyalty. Oof.
Well, if it's something you both openly talk about.
Yeah, but this is a different level, and I know how much good it's gonna, and he knows how much good it's gonna do, because this is how you break those cycles, and this is how, you forgive, and when two parties want a relationship and it's reciprocal, but it's there's so many families floundering, and he's knock on fake wood. He has something with my boys, and I don't want to fuck that up. It's so strange because I didn't see this coming. I didn't see this coming, and it also brings up my relationship with their parent, who I don't have all that much with, and I have all the empathy in the world for what that parent's been through, but he inadvertently has helped me have more, not that I needed more empathy, but because he understands and can accept where I am at about things. And this whole new layer of healing happens, because I don't throw him for any loops. He understands. I mean, sometimes we don't it's not like smooth when we talk. There definitely is things that need further explanation or make for agitation, but which keeps it real. Definitely keeps it real. I wouldn't change what I'm about to do because I wanted to do it so desperately, but it's, yeah, I mean, and when you meet him, when you hear him, he's not, I think he will be shocked that I am in this state of mind. It'll really give him some insight into how this stuff has impacted me, because I don't think I don't want to speak for him. We'll see.
Right. From like a preview standpoint, though, you're talking about like, has he gone through like the covert abuse kind of things that you talk about,
oh my
like
God,
from your sibling or I guess his parent, right? Like just to kind of give a little bit of a preview, because where we're at on time, we're probably going to get him on the next episode here. So, but just out of curiosity,
you're getting really good.
Well,
you're getting really, you're smelling what I'm stepping in.
Right.
And that's going to make me cry too.
Well, I'm sorry, but
Yeah, he's been through it.
Okay.
Yeah. And he'll share what he wants to share, and we're going to do our best. He doesn't want his name.
Of course.
He knows he can tell you, take that out. He's covered his bases as far as circling the wagons. But yeah, I mean, you have to go through it to recognize it.
Right.
And we're realizing that those who can face themselves and not repeat the same, because if you don't face yourself, you end up repeating the same thing. And that's how covert abuse becomes so insidious. We've touched on things previously, but in preparation for this, see, now I'm more back myself. Thank you. Mm-hmm. In preparation for this, and almost forced us to crystallize and synthesize some things, because we want to be respectful of those who, have hurt us, or, he's, and some things can be repeated. He's 40.
Going to tell a story, but
he's 42.
Okay.
And I'm 56, so we're 14 years apart. It's actually an interesting age difference, because it's the same age difference basically between he and that particular sibling. So it's very interesting for me.
You mean between you and your sibling?
Yeah.
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know how I said it, but that's what I meant.
Yeah. Okay.
And it gives me a lot of perspective, because I'm not used to being the older one, but my nieces and nephews, for the most part, are closer in age to me than my siblings were, which makes for an interesting dynamic when you're the aunt and you're, 9.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, we have some real similarities that we figured out, which probably also really helps with perspective. He's the youngest. Just what he's observed and what he's been through, and he's kind of hard on himself for, in his mind, taking so long, just facing stuff in his mid-30s, now early 40s, and I'm like, no, man, that's kind of when it happens. Like, it's. You get married, you have your kids, and you can look at yourself. That's where we're different. I raised my kids through my abuse. And I mean, if you can get out in front of that, oh my God, it's huge. I'm very, very proud of him, and it's hard to, be so proud of somebody that had to go through what he went through to get there. I mean, it sounds fucked up. And he knows. I also, on a side note, and this speaks to age and difference, I spoke to Jersey's son. Jersey's son is in his early 20s, and I spoke to him about coming on, and he can do whatever the fuck he wants. And I'm trying not to use his name. And he basically, he's going to think about it, but he didn't really think it was going to be something he would do. And I just said, just think about what it will do for others. That's not a guilt trip. That's just, because if you part of this ascension that we all go through, and as we build into consciousness, and as we build into coming out of dissociation, and the fifth dimension comes in, as I so fondly speak of all the time, that's the dimension where you do want to give back. And in my case, my calling, spare, grief, insight, joy, but that's where, that's something that eventually does hit a person who's experiencing and has faced himself enough in the dimension to want to do something for others. So I just said that to him. He got it. I mean, he got it. But again, I'm not going to take a 22-year-old brain and strong arm them. I'm just going to say that here's an opportunity, and he'll hit me up whenever he needs me, so we'll be fine. But I just selfishly want people who are going through this stuff to just get in front of it before they choose a life partner and before they have their kids. I mean, that's really my agenda. My vagenda.
Thank you for listening and supporting Natural Born Redhead. If you follow the Bouncing Balls, please like and subscribe. If you know someone interested in sparing others grief and inciting joy, message me on Facebook or reach out via my website, Natural Born Redhead. J-Ma.